Good
Hello.
afternoon. Good morning to you, Andres.
I guess so. Yeah, it's 11 a.m. It's bright and early for me. Still have more than half a day to go today.
Yeah, man, and it is spot on noon for me.
Yeah, I know it's lunchtime, so if you get angry, I understand why.
Yeah, if there's one thing that people know about me, who know me well, like you, I like to stick to my schedules. very
Yep.
much, very much a schedule-oriented person. But I make exceptions for things like this because I get a lot of enjoyment out of
Yes.
talking about tech with you, with our friends online that are anonymous.
Some are anonymous. Look at that. A non-anonymous.
There
Hello,
we go.
Luciano.
And look, you can see his little hand wave in the bottom corner.
Oh yeah. Okay, I forgot we had the live chat showing on the bottom right left.
That's right. Because we here love engagement. As much as Andres and I like going back and forth, one of the things that we actually really enjoy is hearing from you guys, especially when we're going through and we're testing something new, which is what we're going to be doing today, isn't it, Andres?
Yes, it's a lovely new tool. I mean, it's out there. It's been out there for a month, I think. Its name is Kiro. The logo is a little teensy beatsy ghost.
Oh,
Yes, I got. I'm excited. I got a sticker. Uh, but what is Kiro? Right? Is Amazon Web Services take on agentic IDE?
IDE.
Yep. So right now, mostly we work either Cloud Code, which is terminal based. You have Cursor, Windsurf. What else? There's so many, or just Copilot within VS Code or Q. So many ways to work with AI agents in your day to day code life. And Kiro was introduced with, I think, three differentiators, right? Which are, and we'll talk more about them as we go on, but it's agent steering, agent hooks, and specs. Specs being one of the biggest changes in how we work, which is what us developers don't like that much. It's plan before you execute. So the tendency is I'm going to start writing my code and I'll see it work. And if it doesn't work, I'll change it. With the spec-driven nature of it, is I'll plan first, get the set of requirements, design up front to then start executing on that work. Right. So you don't see immediate value, coding value, but it's a long-term investment. Or yeah.
Even short-term investment. So if for people that are just joining us, we probably should introduce ourselves because I think we had a lot of people that don't know who we are watching this one today.
It's true.
So this is a show that Andres and I do. We try to do it every other week about AI in general. We cover top to bottom AI. We talk about cool use cases. We talk about the things to build with it. We talk about how to build with it. And really just trying to bring developers up to speed with the things that are coming out uh, recently. So anyway, my name's Allen Helton. I'm an AWS hero and an ecosystem engineer at Momento. And I spend a lot of time working with AI and learning the latest and greatest, trying to keep up with those things. Andres, why don't you tell us who you
Yep.
are?
I'm Andres Moreno. I'm a principal architect at Kalent. This is Kalent. I get to work with a lot of different systems, some related to AI, some not, some legacy systems. So I'm all over the place, but always trying to be at the edge of technology, learning the best and the greatest, and maybe not greatest, but just knowing what's out there.
That's right. And for those of you watching, you can tell Andres and I have some pretty good chemistry. It's because we worked together for like 10 years, a very long, very long time.
Yep,
So we
we
decided to
know
keep
each
that
other.
rolling.
I
Yeah,
know when Alan's gonna get angry. I know when to make fun of him, when to not make fun of him, and we know, we know.
yes, yes. So let's, and you know, that's kind of who we are. And one of the prefaces that I wanted to that I wanted to talk about before we get into it is you and I have tested a lot of agentic builders. We've tested
Yep.
V0. We've tested, uh, gosh, there was one in the US that came out.
App Studio.
Yeah.
I don't know where that one stands. I haven't heard anything. I think enterprise architects really took a hit and decided not to use it.
Yes. Yes. Uh, we did a couple others, but kind of tracking back to what you were saying before our intros and this, spec-driven design. One of the things that is really important and different about spec-driven design versus what we all know with vibe coding is it's going to end up being significantly more efficient. Efficient in the sense of token usage, efficient in the sense of your time as a developer, spending the time to tell the agent how to code, what your paradigms are, what your norms are, what the requirements are, what you expect to see out the other end is going to save you a significant amount of iteration, at least when it comes to the build. And that's one of the things that we saw when we were building with V0 was us doing these little micro edits for basically an hour to get a working battleship game.
Yep, it was one edit that really made it work. I remember that one, and I shared the clip of our excitement. It's like, so I'm hoping we can get to that point with this one where it just executes. Again, this will be more structured, so I have a bit more confidence. I've been using Kiro for a bit, and I've liked the spec-driven nature. I will say this: I started with specs, but if you don't pay attention to the generated specs, you're falling back to vibe coding and just call it spec driven, because I was just, here are the requirements, this is the I don't care, I just approved everything and moved forward, and it generated something completely different than what I wanted. So it's a little bit of a different approach, right? So let's not fall into the vibe code, the vibe again, and keep using the specs in a meaningful manner.
Yes, don't spec vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the code, the last thing that we need to say as the preface, if you guys saw last week or I think the very end of the week before, Kiro came out with the pricing docs. Prior to that, it had been in kind of this open preview with limits, a daily free limit, and the pricing docs came out, and then people started immediately running into limits for their paid amounts from the $20 tier, the $40 tier, even the $200 tier only took people 2 or 3 days to run through all those credits. So out of the kindness of his heart, Andres has paid for the $20 pro tier, and we're going to see how far can we get with that. Now, there is kind of a caveat out there. AWS did recognize that the pricing stuff was messed up. They had a bug for metering. And this month is kind of a wash. Everybody's getting refunded and they're resetting the limits, but we're starting at 0 already. I don't know if they've reset them already, but we are starting at 0. We're going to see how far can we get into Battleship in our $20 usage credit.
Yes.
And we please go.
Yeah. Can we get it done? Right. And I'll go into a little bit of the pricing, which is bound to change, right? We're in a weird state where they just announced like, hey, August, we're taking it back, right? So they're opening up the free tier again for August, but I think it's gonna clear out until tomorrow or in 2 days. So this stream comes in kind of a middle ground between the subscription and not. Even though they're putting refunds and all that, I decided to pay just to have a little bit of extra credit for this stream. So let's change. Yeah. So my view. Yes, there we are.
Let's roll. That looks great.
Yeah, so this is how you start, right, with Kiro, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the usage dashboard, right? So this is kind of where you see how much have I used. You can see they released these and they gave us 100 spec and 100 vibe. I haven't used any of that intentionally, waiting for the stream. And then I paid for Kiro Pro. What's weird with the pricing is that it's prorated, right? So I wanted to pay the $20 to get 250 vibe and 100 specs or whatnot, but it prorates it for the month. So I got 42 and 76. So it's not like, I think they have a single cycle for everybody instead of hey, I paid August 20th. I get my full amount on August 20th, and then it kind of recovers or refunds on September 20th. So something to consider there. I don't know if any of this is going to change in the coming days based on the responses that AWS has done for this. But
I'd guess yes on that one.
yeah,
Putting everybody on the
so
same billing cycle sounds like an easy way to pump billing out the door when you're trying to skirt under a deadline to release the product.
yep. So today we're working with 142 specs, which yeah, we should be fine,
Let's
and
see.
176 vibes. But yeah, let's get rolling. Right. So once you're starting, let's talk a little bit about steering. Right. So steering is basically context you're giving the agent on every request. Right. So if you start a vibe request and you ask it something, it's going to pull these files from the steering documents to know kind of the guides for it to work on, right? So this is where I've defined file structures, best practices for REST APIs with serverless and general API, serverless API, general best practices, and all those things that it should follow for your specific project. Alan and I were talking about this briefly, right? But these steering docs feel like for an organization, you would have a base for these steering docs. It's like your base prompt, basically. You have a base for what you want to provide an agent. So any cross-cutting concerns and best practices you have for your org, this is where you would define them. There's no easy way right now to share steering docs other than, hey, there's a repository with the base steering docs, pull them into your repo. So I see a future where we can sync those up, or I was also mentioning, right, there's MCP server connections you can have. Maybe you spin up an MCP server with your steering docs for your org or something like that, right? So a way to share these.
I still think that's a silly idea, but I'm not going to hold us up on that one.
So this is
so
the
just,
Kiro UI.
Just last thing I'm going to say. No, wait.
Yeah.
Before you move on, I just want to say the steering docs sounds to me like something that when we're talking about enterprise development, a platform team is going to take ownership over basically creating and distributing. It's something that's going to be the base guidelines for everybody that is likely to be curtailed to individual development teams or even individual developers, just kind of like you take a lot of platform advice today.
Yep.
That might get me some, hate saying that, but
it's fine. So yeah, so it looks and feels like VS Code, right? So it's a fork of VS Code with Kiro magic on top, right? So we get this. You even get the extensions imported once you start with Kiro, but then you have this Kiro basically extension. So let's start generating a steering doc. Woo.
Okay, so it pops it in over on the right-hand side. It says some things. It looks like it's using Claude Sonnet 4, and you have autopilot on.
Yeah, so it's autopilot means that it's just going to do everything, right? It's just going to execute. Mm-hmm. If it's approved to run a specific command and it wants to run it, it's going to run it for you. So it just goes on and does it.
Yeah. Now, while that's going, two things. One, Luciano asked, is the steering kind of like the Claude.md or Cursor rules? I haven't extensively used Cursor to that extent. Have you, Andres? Do you know the answer to that?
Not in Cursor, but with Copilot, you can provide the instructions, MD, for example. It's similar. It's just more structured and more visible, right? So it's a lot of what Kira is providing is a user experience. So I would say yes, it's similar because you can provide the guidelines, what Node.js runtime you want to use, or just tell it always use the latest runtime, or use the latest version of the LTS package, or all those things you can specify there. So I'm assuming the Claude MD is similar to the instructions you can give to Copilot, which is essentially the steering here.
Cool. And then my other question with this, you just hit start steering and it went on its own and did that? Did you type in anything? Yeah, I guess
no.
it forced in generate steering rules. Can you look? Did that use request?
Oh yeah, let's look.
One.
One. Look at that.
One vibe. Okay.
So, and here's my recommendation for this, and it's what I did on a kind of personal project, is I pulled a repo that I love that has all the structure and all the stuff, and I told it, hey, generate steering documents for this. And you can see if you're opening this for an existing project and you're about to use Kiro for that existing project, it's already analyzing your repository and your structure to come up with these, right? So at this point, it created these documents. You can see what it did. We can see all the files that it created. So let's look at them, right? So everything gets created under it's easier to view them in the Kiro. So let me, all this zoomed up.
So it's in a .kiro folder.
Yes. So all the things that show here are in a .kiro folder.
Okay.
So yeah, this workspace, so it just created like the base, right? So this is what's the product, what's the structure. So it only knows it has the VS Code and Kiro. So we can start suggested patterns it has, right? So we haven't told it, hey, we want this. And tech, hey, it's using Kiro, VS Code, MCP configuration is disabled. So we can start creating it. So it didn't really provide any guidelines because it just went on and didn't prompt me to, hey, what do you want?
Yep. Hey,
so
zoom
here,
in one click for me, Andres.
One more click.
Yeah. Okay.
It's gonna get crazy. There we go. So here's where we can provide. I would like to update my steering documents to be more specific for my project. The project consists of an online version of the Battleship game, right? So that will come up maybe with a product. We will like this to be built. What framework do you want this in?
Vite.
What?
VITE. VITE.
I call that Vite, but that might be.
That's ESL right there. That's your Spanish coming out.
Yeah. Supposed to be built in using the Vite framework. Do you want a backend or you want it to be purely UI like we did V0?
Let's say minimize backend components if you can. Vite doesn't have the rich API capabilities, like the rich full stack like Next.js does. It's a lighter weight, it tends to load a little bit faster from my experience. Say AWS serverless.
Yeah,
and then also say using a SAM template.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what it does with that. So this is the steering doc, but you gave it product information with it.
So if we look at the steering has a product, right? So you can see it already updated. An online multiplayer Battleship game that allows players to compete against. Core features, classic Battleship, real-time player functionality for 2 players, game lobby, interactive-based UI with drag and drop ship. You know, we didn't even specify that. The same thing happened with.
Oh yeah, we got called out that Vite's not a framework. We're using React. We're using build tool. React is for the front end framework we'll be using.
I'm a back-end engineer.
Yeah, same.
So you can see all that updated, right? So the product, success metrics, tech, Vite, React, TypeScript front-end stack, minimal AWS serverless, backend, Lambda API gateway, DynamoDB, SAM for infrastructure. And then the structure.
What I like about
Yeah,
okay. So one of the things that we're getting prompt on, just continuously after we do these things, show the usage. Let's keep going back and forth. Surprised that that's only 2. I guess it's not token based. I guess it really is request.
It is a question, and from what I understand from the pricing docs, it's the content kind of. It'll get more interesting when we hit tasks, but
Yeah.
It's kind of the how big of a task is it executing. In this case,
Mhm.
it just updated a few files. It takes it as a single one. But if it's updated 100 files, I would think maybe it'll charge you 2, 3, 4.
All right. Yeah. Let's roll into it. I'm excited to see it. We must have a lot of faith in this tool. So we've already spent 20 minutes in prep of our hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything looks testing frameworks, AWS CLI, SAM CLI, everything seems up to spec, front end heavy design. I don't like how that sounds, but yeah, we'll do that. WebSockets, stateless Lambda functions with DynamoDB, client side, game validation. Again,
I want to. Oh, keep
we,
going.
we need to review these things because then we'll fall into Vibe. But
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Let's switch it to what we did for V0. Let's have it use Memento topics instead of WebSockets just to simplify that architecture a little bit. And while you're doing that, we got a question asking about the rationale for doing steering prior to the spec. First, does it matter between the two?
Well, once you start creating the spec, it'll also it creates the requirements, the design, and the tasks, right? So if you have every task needs to be unit tested and everything before you finish your work, then you need to specify that in the steering so it knows to add that to the task, right? Or in the design, if you're telling it you need to use Node.js 20 runtime version 2022, it'll apply that in the design for the spec doc. So I do think steering should go first so that it can drive the generation of these specs.
Okay. Yep. You keep typing. I'll keep talking on that. So one of the things that gets generated with these requirements docs or the task doc that we're going to move on to next with the spec is it does have requirements for things like execute unit or like build unit tests, and it has requirements specifically in there that this needs to be robust and fault tolerant. And it defines, from what I've used it for, it actually defines those pretty well. Like, what does robust and fault tolerant mean? And it has these little bullet points underneath. Based on generating these steering docs, it can use our preferences there to define what some of these things mean.
Yep.
Because if we really focus more on end-to-end tests, it would probably prioritize those before it does unit tests.
That's because we're developers, Luciano. It's we start with the opposite, right? So less planning, it's more satisfactory for us. But steering, it's kind of the planning before the planning. It's weird.
Yeah. I spent some time as an engineering manager, and I am very familiar with the pre-planning meetings before the planning meetings. And
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of what the shift is when we're working with these AI IDEs. It goes a lot to management. I think I saw somebody write a blog post that predicted the future of developers was that we'd all become managers. Like what managers were a couple years ago, developers are turning into that. How does that look?
It likes the single Lambda function per API endpoint, separate Memento topic handlers. I don't know what this means exactly.
Yeah, I would say we don't need to put Memento in the infrastructure as code.
No, this is SAM, organized Memento topics. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we
we
can
don't need
just
to do
remove
that.
it.
That's all browser, all client side.
For Memento configuration. So this is structure. Let me go back to tech. Use Memento type for real-time game and event distribution to reduce WebSocket complexity. Look at that. It knows about Memento.
It does
Use
know. That's
Memento
cool.
for Memento topics, real-time messaging, and game events. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
I think I feel we're in a good enough spot to start with
Same.
our spec.
Okay.
So
what it's gonna do given the steering.
Yeah. So specs, yeah, complex features with structure planning, right? So you can think of this as a full project, or maybe you already have a project and you're implementing a feature, right? So you can have a spec per feature if you think about it. So in this case, we're doing just do it all, right? Enter your idea to generate the.
What'd you click on?
I create this. Well, first we're at 3.
We've used 3 Vibe requests in generating our steering docs.
Our steering. So now here, I just
Okay.
click the plus and then enter your idea to generate requirement, design, and task specs, right? So create, I want to get back to the other prompt that we had. Let's see if I can get back to the history. I guess it doesn't have the...
What are you trying to do?
Get my previous, where I already specify the whole thing. Create a web-based version of the Battleship game. Good enough? Too vague?
No, let's start there. I love seeing vague requests. I mean, we're interacting with Sonnet 4, so it should be pretty smart.
And you can see how it includes the steering documents now for this, right? So this is, to answer your question, Luciano, you can see it kind of expects to work out of with the steering documents to generate all this. So here you can see
that
it's creating the requirements. Yeah. What are you going to say?
So let's look at usage. Because it's starting to use, I guess it'll probably increment when the request is done.
And I'm still iffy if the spec creation counts as vibe or as spec. I don't know if spec only counts as executing a task.
We're about to find out. I'm going to guess that it's going to count as a vibe request.
So here we have
the steering docs did.
Let me minimize this, right? So this document, the requirements for web-based multiplayer, the game will allow 2 players to compete against each other in real time. Plays ships on a grid, yada, yada, yada. Requirement number 1. As a player, I want to join or create a game lobby so that I can find an opponent to play Battleship with.
Excellent.
So
far, that's on par with what V0 did.
As a player, I want to... Oh, yeah, I remember the planning. As a player, I want to place my ships on the game board before the battle begins so that I can strategically position my fleet. I'm not going to read the acceptance criteria.
Why don't you like pick and choose one? I just want to see the way that it builds acceptance criteria.
I want to take turns attacking my opponent's grid so that I can attempt to locate and sink their battleship, right? When the battle phase begins, then the system shall display both players' own grid with ships visible and opponent's grid with ships hidden. When it's a player turn, then the system shall allow them to click on the unattacked cell on the opponent's grid. When a player attacks a cell containing a ship, mark the hit.
You don't need to read it. I just meant one actual acceptance criteria, not all of
them. Okay.
But it's good to see the way that they're laid out, because it has the trigger, the action, and then the requirement. Which, if you've read the MCP spec for the actual protocol itself, it is structured in very much the same way.
Yep.
Using must, shall not.
So real-time updates so I can respond immediately. As a player, I want to know when the game ends and who won so that I can see the final results and start a new game. As a player, I want an intuitive and responsive user interface so that I can easily interact with the game on different devices. Validate moves and enforce rules so that a fair gameplay is maintained. There we are. Seems like it's good enough.
I mean, it's good enough for what we're doing right now. If I was a product person and I saw a requirement or a user story that said enforce the rules, I don't know. That's way too vague for me. But we are building something that is well known. So I mean, I will cut it a little bit of slack with that, because we're not reinventing any wheels here.
Cool. So here it asks you, do these look good, right? Do these requirements, if you were a product person like Alan, you would then type in, yeah, I need more detail on the rules, right? More specifics on this. This requirement doesn't meet what I expect, yada, yada, yada. In this case, we're fine. So we can move to the design phase.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to talk while you're doing things.
Yeah.
And not interrupt you. Luciano asked, is it defining anywhere the size of the grid? And this is kind of where we're leaning on the expertise of the LLM, the specific one that is going to be building, because it knows. We chose Battleship because everybody knows Battleship. The rules are very strongly defined. Everything is familiar with it. So we get a little bit of slack with that. So while you and I don't know what the grid size is, an LLM definitely knows what the grid size is.
Yeah, and if I needed to add that to the requirements, I would go to an LLM and ask it to then specify it for the requirement.
Yeah, like
But
that could be something that we could change to make this a unique game, right? Am I playing in a pond? Am I playing in the sea? Am I playing in the Atlantic Ocean? Right? And that would change the size of the grid that you're putting your ships on.
cool. So yeah, it's for a real product. You probably want to be more specific on the requirements for things that might not know off the top. So here's one piece of feedback is, well, all these are marked down, right? But they don't render, right? Because this creates diagrams and everything. So I usually have to go back here, open preview, and then look at it, just to look at it in the nice markdown that it created. So this is the design, right? So we told it, okay, let's jump into design. Again, it went and pulled the steering documents, knowing we want to use Vite, not the build framework, not the
framework,
not
the
the
build
framework.
tool. Yes.
With React, TypeScript, all that. It is specifying all that here, right? This will be that because it pulled it from the steering doc. While backend, Lambda functions with DynamoDB for game state, real-time communication between these guys will be for Momento topics. It prioritizes client-side game logic with usually I would, again, I hate pushing all the logic to the UI, but that's what we have.
It's doing what we asked.
Yep. High level architecture, right? So we have the front end with the user interface, game logic, Momento topics client, API client communicates with Momento topics. Obviously, we don't care where Momento lives, right? But it's putting it inside the AWS cloud. So live with that for a moment. And then we have game management API and move validation API, and then the storage, right? So it gave us a little nice diagram, the technology stack, right? Sometimes it feels very repetitive because you have it in the steering, you have it here. Once you create another spec, it kind of does it all over again. Components, core game, here kind of our UI components, I guess, and game modal, game status, ship placement, UI components, grid, ship, cell, loading spinner, backend API, create a game, join a game, get the status of a game, mark player is ready, leave game room, validations. I guess it's checking the coordinates and all that stuff. Real-time messaging.
Very restful on these.
We didn't tell it to follow REST practices for the API, so
okay.
I have my base like serverless API, and it says REST. Start with an open API. All the things you and I love. I have a steering document that's specific with all that information. Topic structures, main game event channels, lobby updates.
Those make sense. It's communication
message
channels.
Types, player joined, ready, moved. Data models. I know they just released the data modeling MCP server, right? So we could include that as an MCP server, and it would call and use that for data modeling, for DynamoDB data modeling, right? So this integration now with MCP servers as well, and it's becoming more powerful with all these getting released. But you can see we got some audit information, who's next, yada, yada, yada. Ship placement. I'm going to trust it in some of this. Again, falling back to the vibe in a real scenario. You'll look at all that. But you can see DynamoDB schema, partition key. Here are your attributes, session, table. It's based on my player. The WebSocket connection.
Probably not necessary, but you can let it run.
Front-end error handling, back-end error handling. You see, it's pretty thorough. And it just took like 5 seconds, right? So if you're architecting something, this is a good jump start for you.
Did you generate? How did this get built? I was following along, I thought very intently. You just hit that button that said move to design. Is that what we did?
So it asked this, and I said, move to design. It generated this document. Just that's all we said.
Let's look at the usage doc. When we're done. Sorry. Let me let you finish.
Security, data protection. we're good. So what do you want to see?
The usage. Are we using spec requests now, or are we still vibing? Still
It's
vibe.
still, yeah. So I'm assuming the spec request is for each task, and we'll hit those in a bit. So everything looks good. Well, it is saying rest, so I will tell. I am a little bit disappointed, Claude. But I mean, it's learning from us, and I know most of the APIs are out there are not full rest, so I'll give it that. So now it's the third step, right? So creating a spec is requirements, design, and then implementation plan. It'll create the tasks, detailed tasks for what it's going to do and what requirements it's satisfying with that task.
So we're still not coding yet.
Nope.
This is the part where we talk technical, or no?
No. So here you can see there's the 3 steps: requirement, design. So it's generating this now, implementation plan. You can see so set up project structure. Oh, come on, it's getting in the way. Set up project structure and development environment, create front-end directory. So it's laying out the folder structure and all that. What requirements does it meet? Implement core data models and types, right? With TypeScript interfaces, blah, 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 blah.
We're definitely lower level than we are with the product requirements. This is talking about.
Yeah. Well, these are the tasks that without an agent, you would have an engineer now execute.
Yeah. Yes. And I like this is interesting because when I was creating user stories for you back in the day, I never went to this much detail intentionally, and also because you asked me not to. You said, "Stop taking away my creative freedom." But when we're talking about building with an agent, it's actually really good to be explicit like this, because otherwise it's gonna do its own thing. I also really like that it's referencing the requirements in here in each one of these tasks. Why is it building these things? It's because of satisfying these requirements.
Yeah, and I think as they iterate on this, right, you would have the task list, and maybe this, I mean, it's markdown, so you can link to another markdown and just have a link to that requirement to see, okay, what's this requirement? Because here, to me, it means nothing. So maybe in the future, the markdown that is generated has a link to that. And we'll get into like this functionality here in a sec. Let's just make sure this doesn't look too crazy.
So it's done creating the task list. So let's take a look at what it's planning on doing. And I like that it puts them in chronological order, which makes sense. You wouldn't start with CSS polish.
I can tell it to start with this task if I wanted to, but so create basic UI components and layout. You can see Luciano, it assumes a 10 by 10 cell grid.
There we go. There's the
cell
specific
component
requirements.
Build ship component with visual representation, CSS. Implement ship placement functionality. Build game lobby and matchmaking system. Implement turn-based attack system. Set up AWS Lambda backend. It starts with the front end, which is weird. Set up AWS Lambda backend infrastructure. Implement game state management API, integrate Momento topics for real-time communication, implement game completion and victory, add comprehensive error handling, implement player connection management, create comprehensive test suite. So this is...
So it is not a test-driven design type of AI agent.
I mean, once you squash one of us, squash the commit, and you're fine.
Right. You had no idea that you did test last.
Look, optimize performance. Look at that. Deploy and configure production environment. So we're there. Right. Okay. So at this point, let's just finalize. We can iterate as we see some failures.
And that's something that Daryl put in a comment in our chat. He said that he's seeing mixed results from people who want to change the requirements mid-flow, I guess, like on the fly. So what I would like us to do to try and see what it does, let's go through, I don't know, like 3 or 4 tasks and have it build those tasks and then change the requirements on it and see what happens.
Cool. Okay.
We're
cool here. I could tell it just execute all the tasks. I haven't had great success with that. it does a lot, right? And I'm still in I want to review what it's executing and what it's doing so that it doesn't go like in a tangent that I didn't want to, right? So what I do, let me create these sessions or close these sessions, right? So we got this. If you see here, it has this.
Don't hit it yet. Look at the usage before you hit it, but keep on your thought. Just don't do that yet. Okay.
Still vibe. So Daryl, I'm looking at Daryl's comment. So he created a battleship game with Kiro the day after it went in preview. It took forever, like 4 hours of actual time. So hopefully, yeah, we don't have that amount of time. So we'll see how far we can get. That's the. So we'll start the task.
So now we're actually rolling into implementation. This was an empty repository. Was it initialized in Git or no? Is it just an empty folder on your machine?
It's an empty folder. I can initialize Git. This is part of what you can do on the steering docs is like, hey, for every task, commit it, right? Push it to the branch. It can follow all those. Add a meaningful commit message. You can have a steering doc for commit messages, right? So it can follow all of that. But you can see once we executed the task, it pulls the steering docs, right? So Luciano, going back to your question, steering docs kind of drive how it executes all the things. So you can see it's creating all of these files. You can follow it and see all the things. So let me close these two things. Oh, it keeps opening.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to give you some feedback. Maybe you can zoom out and get a little bit of your real estate back.
Yeah, so you can see all the files here. Once you're following, you can see all the files. And what it's
How'd you
doing.
get to this tab? How'd you get to execution changes?
I clicked the follow.
Okay.
Once, this is a cool thing, right? Once, let me go to my spec, right? If I'm in the task list, you can get here, right? View changes. Once it's done with the task, I don't know where that's stored, but it's stored somewhere. You can keep track of those changes, right? So if I go back to an old spec and go back to the task list, I can see the changes that were implemented for that task list, which is essentially, I would expect that task to be a branch and get pushed. PR, regular process. But here it's still going. Let's track. So now we hit the 1 vibe use. Now that we
look at that, that's interesting that they're flipped now. Specs on top and vibes on bottom. That's
I guess it's sorted by usage, ascending.
Okay, so it's still building. It's giving its chain of thought for what it's doing. I can see why. I don't know. 4 hours seems like a really long time for what Daryl was saying. He already built what we're building, and I don't necessarily think that the code's not getting generated faster. I'm just wondering if it's orchestrating itself better.
So I'm looking at the comment that says it's stored in the task file in Kiro, but I guess it's embedded here somehow.
I don't know. There might be there might be things that are hidden. This is a forked version of VS Code, so they could be rendering files in this folder structure differently.
Okay, it's running npm install. This is a command that I've approved for it to run. I can't remember how you can see the approved commands. It didn't find Memento SDK.
It'll figure it out.
Let's play some music, Alan. We forgot about that.
Oh yeah, I spent all this time. Yeah, so lame. I spent all this time coming up with this, like building this music for us in the background.
There you go. Well, I think it wasn't much slower before it went out on preview. Once the first day they released it, we were all in there. Claude went down or had an issue for a while there. I think because of the heavy usage. So, but yeah, we'll see. Linting didn't work.
Which I kind of expect that. I don't know. Andres, while it's still doing that, could you tell us a little bit about hooks? Because I see that as something in the Kiro tab, but we haven't talked about that at all. Automate repetitive tasks with smart triggers.
Yeah. So the simplest example you can get from this is, hey, whenever I save a file, update the documentation. And maybe while it's going, we can create one. I haven't used hooks at all yet. So
Great. Why not then start? Why not start live?
So here it explains what, right? So hook list is for an event to occur, such as file creation, file save, or file deletion. Prompt is sent to agent. Kiro makes an update. Kiro invoked and takes action to automatically update files in your workspace, right? So we can tell it. What's a simple one?
I don't know. Someone has. Is anybody from the Kiro team watching this? Because I would love a suggestion for what you guys think is a good hook.
I mean, we have some examples down here.
Yeah, I guess so. Optimize my code. So, like, what would be the trigger on optimize my code?
File save.
File save.
Do you want to try that or update my docs?
Do you have autosave turned on?
Yes.
Because you might blow through your credits in like 2 seconds.
We'll see.
Let's before hold on, wait. So this has been going on for a few minutes. It's been building whatever it's been building this first task. We're still on task 1, right?
Yeah, this is setting the base.
Let's look at the usage. Let's go to the usage as it's going through and building a whole bunch of stuff. 2. Is that right? All right.
We've only triggered 1 task, right? So
You're right. Okay. That's great. I mean, I actually love that. It's like 1 task is a spec request ? Before, I don't know again if these are like rolled up, how those are actually tracked, calculated, I guess. So before we move on to the next one, maybe we give it like 10 seconds and then look at the usage again to see if that's recalculated to a different number.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting some good suggestions for hooks in the comments. Like, make sure certain standards are met, like X, Y, or Z, right? So anything that's specific to our process, whenever those are saved, make sure that it's linted, so we don't have to be surprised at the end.
Okay, it finished. It added 50 files. It ran all this. Supposedly it worked. I've had situations where it's a trickster and it just does an echo and quotes, I successfully executed something, and it's just that echo. It's not actually executing anything. So be careful.
What? Oh no, it's getting too smart. It's getting too smart.
It's the assert true to true.
Yeah, yes.
But it gives you a summary, right? This is part of what we need to be better at, right? And we've seen it on several of our streams, Alan, where we just run it and we don't see the summary, right? But it's, hey, completed, front end setup, back end setup, blah, 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 right? So I'm assuming if we do over here, npm run dev, it'll do something.
I like that I saw it right before it was giving this summary. It was cleaning up a test file that it created to verify that it did the right thing, which is cool, but it's also self-validation. Battleship game coming soon.
Cool. So yeah, it did 1 task. Let's jump to, and it completes it, right? So you can view the changes, view the execution, all that fun stuff. You want to get to the second task? Well, usage.
Yeah. Let's look at the usage. See, so it used 3. So it used 2 on that one. Is that what we?
It used 3 on this specific one.
Just the one. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so just the 1 task was 3 spec requests.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
And that's
usually here. Bring Massimo's comment up. Let me bring it up. Usually, each task consumes 1 request, but a task request and a vibe request can consume more than 1 request if the work unit is too large. We document this in pricing FAQ. All right, I'm jumping to that while you keep rolling, and we're going to talk about that.
Yep. So it's rolling to the second. Let me use a.
Massimo, thank you for joining. Appreciate you being here.
npm run dev. So what? Oh, I'm in a different folder. Okay, so I'll just keep this open. We can see the live reload if whatever's happening. Create utility functions in the front end utils.
What is it?
And this is the fun thing. I mean, because one thing I mentioned early on is I have a lot of side projects that I want to execute, right? And most agents, this is what you can do, but I don't have time to execute them, right? So I would have Kiro running on a separate desktop. I would spend time with my requirements and all that, and then I would get back to my regular day job and then keep working. And then I remember, okay, let me look where it's at. And then if it was blocked on trying to run a command or something, then I would just click continue, go back to my regular job, and I can I can keep rolling building these things, right? But the strong specs really help to drive that so that it didn't produce something super weird.
Yes, and so if talking about taking that one step further while we're still waiting for this to execute, that's where you spend your time in this paradigm for like your side project work, your dedicated side project requests or time, I guess. Right. So for me, I usually do side projects early in the morning before my kid gets up. It's like 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. With this type of model, it kind of shifts because I'm not actually doing a lot of coding, but I am defining a lot of requirements. So that time from 6 to 7 is spent honing what the work is that I want done. I'm defining the product requirements, I'm defining the tasks, I'm setting up that steering to make sure that it's done the way that I like it done. And then kind of like what Andres said, I can just monitor off to the side while the code is being built while I'm actually doing real work. Real work just sounds so wrong to say, but while I'm doing the day job work, the work I get paid for.
Yeah. So one thing, and I don't know if for people following, I don't know if you saw, I've never approved the TSC command. So it asked me, hey, that's where it gets stuck, waiting for your command to approve it. So I approved it a couple times. I realized it's going to be running several times, so I just approved the full command, mpx tsc, no emit. So the next time it tries to run this command, it'll just run it.
Show me where you would revoke that. What if you accidentally clicked on rm-d?
This is where you can add the commands you approve. Should probably limit this a little bit more.
Yeah. The same with sam star. You can't do sam delete and delete all of your resources. Okay, cool. So that's nice. Trusted commands.
So this is where I was, hey, you can commit, right? Just do the commits for me. So here's Vitest, right? I haven't approved that. So again, full command, it'll add it here.
Nice. Okay, so we're running a little short on time. I can go over if you can go over since we're kind of in a flow. If not, that's fine. We'll stop it. We could just start talking.
Let me
kind of in a wrap up.
I think we can go over. This is important. But yeah, I'll send a few messages while you talk at some point.
Cool. So okay. I was looking at the docs while you're still running on that. I was looking at the docs for the Kiro billing, and granted, I am partially distracted and I'm not paying full attention to the docs since I do have to talk and read at the same time. I'm not seeing where it defines what a quote unit of work is. That's actually something that I'm very interested in. Is that defined in number of tokens? I would, or is that like a number of actual tools being run by the LLM? I'm curious. I'm probably just looking in the wrong spot. But I would like to know what makes a request the third FAQ in the pricing doc. Okay. What's the difference between vibe requests and spec requests? Excellent. Andres, I will steal from you while that's going.
Yep.
Okay,
Woo,
here we go.
Zoom in.
Yep. Here we go. What's the difference between vibe requests and spec requests? Kiro meters usage by 2 request types, vibes and specs. We've seen that, which translate the underlying token usage of the foundational model into simple, predictable units. The foundational model processes every interaction in tokens. Input tokens are what's read from your prompt code in any relevant context. Output tokens are what it writes in response. Vibe requests are conversational interactions that don't involve spec task execution. So as we've seen, that is literally what it is, right? Execution of those tasks. It took a vibe request to generate what those tasks were, but actually running them is what counted as a spec request. And it looks like triggering a hook as well is a spec request. So we would burn through those pretty quick if we had implemented a hook. Typical vibe is one user prompt and Kiro's reply, though unusually complex prompts can span multiple vibes if they require more tokens than a single request allows. Who is back here with us? Let's see.
Yeah,
spec
that's my bad.
requests. Spec requests are executions of tasks within Kiro's structured development workflow. You'll often start with vibes to create the requirements and design docs. Okay, so it is upfront about what we discovered on our own. Then run tasks from your spec. Each task is roughly 1 spec request, but may count for more if it draws a large amount of context or produces substantial output, which makes sense. I don't see where, well, I'll just keep reading. We chose this model instead of raw token billing to give you a clearer, more predictable way to plan your usage, encouraging short, iterative vibes for exploration and structured specs for your planned work, which makes sense. Totally get the model, and I actually agree very well with that model. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not knowing what that cutoff is, the token count, doesn't really matter because I don't know how many tokens I'm using anyway.
Yeah.
So it is like, okay, I guess that's fine. What I would like to know, though, I'm gonna switch back to your screen. What I would like to know, let me remove my screen and put yours back. There we go. Are my steering, I guess Kiro tells us when the steering docs are being used. So I would imagine only in those requests when the steering docs are being used are those tokens being counted toward that limit.
Yeah, it's probably every new session will count the steering docs, right? So it just finished task 2. We're at 3 spec usages per task, right? It took a while. It did a lot. 12 files. It's mostly, a lot of it is the testing. But I mean, this is how you roll, right? So let's, oh no, not test, cancel. Task 3.
What did you click on? What did you click
Task
on?
4.
Oh, okay. I'm curious what it would do in that scenario. Like, what happens if you jump ahead? Do you think it would identify that you're skipping tasks?
Yeah. It's not for me to figure. It's not for us to figure out right now.
Not today. Okay, that's
Not
on a
today.
follow-up one. Okay. All right, we'll just work on happy path then.
Yeah.
I will say, and I'm actually open to talk with you about this one. How are you comparing this experience with V0? Apples to apples.
So I always
Apples to
favor
oranges.
I always favor a tool that I can run in the IDE, right? And well, this is an IDE. So that was, I can't remember which one it was that we could directly work with it. Was it App Studio?
What?
That we could work with it directly from VS Code, right? With V0, you're working in the browser. Mm-hmm. And once you want to hook it up to like Visual Studio with a branch or something, it gets weird, right? I was never able to make it work really nice. So the fact that I can cancel it and then fix something myself and then reprompt it right there seems more flexible than V0. V0 gives you hey, it just deploys it and it's there. but it got weird when you have back end, right? So V0 is purely front end.
Yeah. One of the things that we need to also consider when we're making this comparison, it's not really fair because it's not intended to do the same thing. V0, for us developers out there, we know what that means, right? That's an MVP. That's bootstrapping and getting us pretty far for a handoff. That's V0. That's like literally what that means. Versus what we're doing with Kiro here, which in the docs specifically says from prototype to production. So this is much more intended to be the full life cycle and ongoing enhancements and maintenance as well. So it's not exactly the same. What would be interesting, Andres, and I would actually like your thought on this, based on what we've done so far. V0 was significantly faster to get to a playable game, like orders of magnitude faster to get to a playable game. And I'm wondering how well it would work if we used V0 to get to the point that we ended on that other stream and then brought it in here and start from essentially a maintenance mode, or starting at V1 where we say, here's what we have, here are the requirements that I want, go and fix it or change it or modify it to my business rules. Not only would that get us from 0 to 1 faster, it's also going to get us starting at 1 with fewer consumed requests. V0 was free up until that point.
Like you said, it's getting you from the prototype to the actual thing, right? So now with the correct technology, the correct best practices, correct folder structure, correct requirements, now execute from that prototype. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, me too. Maybe we do that next time. I'd be curious to see how that would work. Can we make V0 good? I wanted to see if that would make you laugh. It was good. I mean, it still did the same types of things. We just didn't define what those things were. And we didn't really have a say into what the linting rules were or what the strict product definitions were of the steering docs. So I'd be curious to do that. So it's using, on average, 3 spec requests per task. Is that right?
That seems accurate.
And we're still on task 3.
Oh, look at that!
Hey.
So yeah, I'm using the live reload to see what the hell is doing it.
Do we have a task in there to make it look nice?
Build, implement, set up, implement game state, integrate.
I feel like it already did implement backend system.
User experience.
There we go. Implement code splitting, optimize bundle side, add loading state. Okay, yeah, there it is. 116. Yeah, and then it's optimizing for mobile. It's just doing... It seems to be doing everything backwards. It's doing desktop first design versus mobile first design, and it's doing tests at the very end as well, which is probably something we should have said in the steering docs.
Yeah.
If we were better.
We're always improving. This is something pops every now and then. It's doing it a lot right now, and I don't know exactly what the error is.
One of the things that I noticed, and this is just speculation, when it runs into something like that, like I'll see what it follow its little chain of thought. I think it might cache some of the files in its memory and then try to change something. But if it's different, like I think it might be comparing checksums with the file on disk and what it has in cache, and if it's different, then it gets that error. Just speculation. That's kind of what I thought.
I think it's done. I mean, it was just fixing the test. Oh, come on, lint.
It's important. Linting's important. So now that I read these docs and I see that hooks count as spec requests and I see how valuable those are, I'm really tempted to just not use them. I don't. How do you feel about it? I guess it would have to be something pretty powerful and something that's not triggered frequently.
Yeah, I think I go back to I can have an agent at the end, right, when I commit, that does that.
It depends on what the hook is, I guess.
Yeah. So if it's like prettifying, right, run lint and fix all the linting issues instead of having.
Yeah, well, yes. Luciano said something funny about that. He said, using AI for linting. Here, let me bring it up. Using AI for linting and running tests feels like shooting a fly with a cannon. It's just so true. You don't need to be using an AI spec request to do that. That's something that you can certainly, use these other hook mechanisms to do. So I think really where your hooks are going to be valuable is something that actually requires a little bit of reasoning, like verifying. I don't necessarily think on save, but when something significant changes, making sure that the unit tests still work. Or do I don't even know what the governance, like unit test governance, where it's not just changing the unit tests to make the code work, right?
Yeah.
Cheating that way, making sure.
I don't know if you saw one right now where it just deleted the test file and recreated it. So test-driven approach, how much you trust the test that it's running and creating, really have to be critical about it. But here,
can this work yet? Is this working? Oh, you're guessing. Okay.
It doesn't have any management yet, right? So it finished 42 file changes. This one took 5 spec requests.
And I'm wondering if that was on its own iteration, because unless these files are getting like really large in size, but it doesn't really look like it is. It looks like it's just creating more. It might be using those tokens because it's iterating, because it's not doing the right thing the first time.
Yep.
It's fine. We all do that.
The test, so ship placement functionality. So this is kind of the beginning of the process of the game. But,
okay. Cool. So you said there was a run all tasks or just like go build functionality. Where was that? I've looked for that, and I guess I didn't look very hard. You just tell it, run all tasks?
Yeah, it would be something. Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to tell it to go in order. I had one time where it actually jumped into a further task. And maybe there was a dependency or something like that, right?
Well, then it would be its fault because it built those tasks in that order.
That's true, yeah. I mean, you can always blame AI.
Forever scapegoat.
Yeah.
I don't know if the metering has already changed. Like, if there was an issue with 5 requests getting counted multiple times, I kind of expected, based on the uproar that I saw on the internet, that we would have been done 20 minutes ago with all of our requests. But this is going, in my opinion, a lot better. Now, could you please go back to the usage requests? Is that going to last me a month? Definitely not.
No.
Not if I'm doing any type of serious programming. Like, that would last me a day. Like, realistically, if I'm sitting down and trying to build something, that would probably last me a day.
Well, just get the metrics, right? We went through 5 vibe requests and 10 spec requests in an hour. Multiply that by 8, the regular work time for a day, that would be 80 and 45.
Yeah.
I would expect more vibe requests as you go, right? Because you're fixing stuff on the fly as well. We're not doing that right now.
Yep.
Tests always getting.
What I really like about this, and I don't have a lot of experience with Cursor. I used it on a free plan one time. What I like about this is that with the other things, Andres, that you and I have used to build applications, it was basically a build it and hand it over. And if you want to maintain it, good luck. It's yours to maintain from now on. But I really like this because you can start using Kiro or really any of these other agentic IDEs at any point in that life cycle. And it just, sucks up the solution as context and figures it out. It's one of the things that when you and I were on the same team, we'd always give interns like a week to get familiar and get comfortable with the code base.
Yep.
And that's, what Kiro is doing in 2 seconds. And Cursor, really all of them. That one's not unique to Kiro, but it's really nice that you can just jump in and start going.
And my recommendation for starting, right, it's either in an existing project so you can get that base steering and just work on a new requirement or new feature with that, right? And just give it the correct context. Or if you're starting something from scratch, I don't recommend what we just did, right? Just start from an empty folder. Maybe we have a UI project, a template, right? Spin up that template and start from there, right? Don't start from an empty thing, right? Because maybe you already have a base for how you run CI/CD, your folder structure and all that. So start it with something that's already working for you.
Let's see. Daryl threw out some anecdote here. He's using the $100 Claude plan and can go all day on Canadian hours, apparently, and didn't hit any limit. $200 Kiro is 80/40 a day. Oh, so that's like the spec vibe breakdown.
Yeah, I think it's spec dive.
Yeah, okay.
Or vibe and spec. Don't know the order.
One of them.
But yeah, one of them. Which that's Kiro Pro Plus. Whew, so much.
Yes.
This is still going.
Okay, so how are we faring? One of the things that I liked, this is looking much better already. One of the things that I liked about the V0 one is that it did deploy it into Vercel for you automatically. So when we were in this stage prototyping, you and I could actually just play. We can't now, right? Because we're not connected via localhost. That's not to say that this isn't building infrastructure as code and you could push it into your AWS account. Then I could, do it.
Yeah, and it's part of what you can add like as a process steering doc, right? It's like create the task, build it, make sure it runs, commit it, or do SAM build, SAM deploy, right? Get it up there, right? And the weird thing there, since Kiro spins up its own terminal, if you wanted to use AWS, you have to provide the keys in the environment or do AWS SSO login on that specific terminal instance for it to communicate. I wouldn't recommend that, right? I usually start, let's get the CI/CD pipeline set and let's have it push, and then it runs it. I don't want to give AI agents admin access to AWS yet.
Sure, that's a fair hesitation. One of the things that I think we could end up using a hook for, if you can do like when task completes as a trigger, you could trigger a deploy or at least a commit to make it run through a pipeline then, and just have it work in a testable way. Or a commit and push.
Okay, it completed.
So task 4. And how many were there? Were there like 13 tasks?
Oh, yeah. So there's still ways to go.
Yeah. And so now we can
Click on the
Click
grid.
on the grid to place your carrier. Press R and to rotate. Does that work? If you press R?
It's not.
No. Not yet. Okay. Well, we're still, what we do, like 4 tasks already?
Yeah.
Or only 4 tasks, so there's still a lot left. The fact that it looks like this, and you and I started, realistically, 40 minutes in for implementing on this stream. So we're, 26 minutes, 36 minutes into actual development. Yeah. I mean, 36 minutes is that's how long it takes me to configure Tailwind and TypeScript. Like that, let alone have all
FPX,
this.
create, react.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's no doubt that it's a pretty massive accelerator.
The difference here, it's the time spent on the requirements and all that, right? So it goes back to, you don't get tangible results with that. That doesn't mean anything to developer yet. It's a set of requirements and tasks. So you can see the difference. We spent quite a bit of time going through those 3 steps with the requirements design and the task list to then just execute. But at this point, it's just you and me talking, me checking to see if I needed to run a command and checking if the UI still renders, right? We know something doesn't work, right? So what I've done when something doesn't work is that I go here and it's like, hey, the rotation of the ships is not working. Is that something you're planning to implement later, right? Just like if it were an engineer.
Yeah. Now, would you speak nicer to Kiro than you would an engineer, or about the same?
I might use some curse words with Kiro because it doesn't get me in trouble with HR.
I found you can guilt LLMs a lot easier than you can guilt a developer to do something.
If I could send it, I guess I can send it pictures, right? But I would send it
an idiot sandwich. Yeah, it does.
Are you an idiot sandwich? Just get it right. Once I start iterating on something, I start getting more aggressive. It's like,
sure, yeah.
But this happened to me with Copilot. It's like, I was doing something, it was failing with the build, and it was manually editing a file on build time, right, to make it work. Look at that! It changed the UX.
Because
and I told it, I don't want you to manually update that file on build. Right, and it tried to fix it. At some point, it summarized the conversation and it restarted like a new session. It probably forgot what we were working on, and it implemented the same solution. It's like, no, no. So you can get in cycles for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so now it's gotten to the point where it's built the lobby,
but there's nothing persistent yet, right? But let's see what it does.
Right. Yeah. And this is like super unfair what you're doing right now because it's actively working on it. Could you imagine if a product person did that to you? That doesn't work. I haven't gotten there yet.
It's kind of normal. It's like, can you get a build out so I can test it? And then it's like, hey, this doesn't work. It's like, I'm actively working on that. I know. Agents don't get an exception from that. We got to treat them like we are treated.
But they'll always be nice back. I guess it depends on the model. I mean, you could
sometimes too nice, right? Sometimes I feel like an agent or an LLM is just agreeing with me when I need
being sarcastic.
When I wanted for it to tell me, no, you can't really do that. Okay. It says, oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that phrase specifically. You were an idiot sandwich. I cannot believe that you implemented the game before the lobby. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
I shouldn't have done that. It's like, that's not fun for me. Okay, so what have we not covered here? Because at this point, we're kind of just seeing is the proof in the pudding here for the quality of the game that it spits out. Let's look at the usage again. Let's see. They're still doing okay. You know, it's about a sixth of the spec usage.
It's what's weird for me, right? In the pricing, I expect to use specs a lot more than vibes, hopefully, if I did my requirements right.
Yeah.
Right. So it gets weird there because with the pricing plans, you get less specs than vibes.
Well, I mean, at some point, okay, well, let's run through this scenario with me. Let's close your usage. Let's let it keep working. Run through this scenario with me. So let's say we get to the end. We're not going to today. I mean, you can certainly do it off air, but we get through all 15 tasks and it works, but you know, there's a lot, right? Let's say you found while you're playing through maybe 8 things that you wanted changed, and you didn't find them all at once, right? You found them as you're playing. What would you do realistically? What do you think you're going to be doing to address those 8 things? Are you going to create a brand new spec to address all of them? Because they kind of feel like piecemeal things. Here's these 8 completely unrelated things I want you to change.
So
make a plan for that.
It's interesting, and it's how you pair things back to kind of your current workflow. And I map a spec to sort of a Jira, in some situations an epic in Atlassian Jira worlds, right? So an epic would be a more like what we just did, right? Build the app, just do it. These other ones would be tasks, and if the task is small enough, change these labels. I would just tackle it as a vibe, right? Just do it. But if it's something more meaningful, like changing a piece of functionality, like hey, changing a requirement to work differently, then I would do another spec for that, right? So now implement or update the functionality to do this, this, and that, and you go through the requirements, design, and tasks flow. So I guess the answer is it depends on the level of effort.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Now I will throw out there, we did only use 5 vibe requests, but we also basically just said, yeah, what you made was good. I would expect the expectation is to use more than 5 to come up with strong, meaningful specs, steering docs, you know, everything needed to make it right, you know, basically the first time, or as close to the first time as possible. And
one thing to remember is these are markdown files, so you can update them yourself, right? You don't have to tell it, add a bullet point to structure the Lambda functions handlers with this structure. You can do it yourself. You don't need an LLM to do that for you. So again, don't just use the tool just because you still have, it's not truly an idiot sandwich, right? So it's let's keep using our brains. It's like when you I don't know if you ever had this in like college, right, where you're in the calculator and you're just doing 118 times 505 and doing all that, and then you get to a part of the problem where it's 1 + 1, and you type it in, the calculator is like, what why did I do that? That's I think what happens to us with these types of things. Let's just have the agent do it instead of us just doing a label change, right? So
yeah,
let's not
yeah, when I ran out of my free tier credits on Kiro earlier this week, it took me like a full day to accept the fact that I was going to have to start coding again. I was like, oh, I'm so turned off by the idea of writing code that I'm just not going to do it. It took me a lot longer than I was really be willing to admit, to say, okay, I will do it.
Did you cry?
No, I didn't. But, you know, as soon as my credits come back, I'm going to say, hey, can you make sure I did everything right?
Yeah.
So,
and
do that.
One thing I did, right, when we were hitting the usage limits and all those things, it was I would go to Copilot or something and tell it, hey, here's all my information, right? Use this as your context to execute anything. It doesn't work as well, right? So Kiro is obviously focused on those steering documents and everything that it's executed. So I couldn't, it didn't really play well once I shifted to Copilot to execute on those things. It requires a little bit more hand holding and yeah. I really hope we could just use Kiro with its functionality and not hit limits. That's my wish and dream.
I mean, you gotta pay. You gotta do that. I do like this paradigm shift though. Like I wasn't really fully on board with Cursor and just the other ones that didn't have spec-driven design. I am on board with this. This is a lot more of the planning and requirement oriented focus that I know I could speak for you as well, that you and I have developed over, a decade each in public sector enterprise. I don't really like, as much as I like going and just building something, I don't like building real things on vibes.
Yeah, and I don't know if you ever hit that situation where you start feeling dirty because you accepted a lot more things that you don't understand into your code. It's like, I haven't had that with Kiro, right? Because I have these iteration loops and I have a strong steering and requirements foundation for it to execute, right? And like you said, based on our history, we're already spec-driven because we're fully on board with Open API first, spec-driven development, right? So this is kind of getting into the spec-driven development workflows where we can generate our Open API from this. This is how if I'm building a backend API, I would start with that for Kiro, right? It's like, hey, let's start with our Open API. Then we can start distributing. Maybe I have a developer running Kiro and run the front end based on that Open API. And then the back end, I have another guy with Kiro running that to just execute. And they're just executing in parallel.
Yeah, no, I love that. And there's a whole bunch of different tools out there that have specialties as well. Like taking what you said one step further, if we're starting with Open API design, then I'm probably actually just going to use the Postman agent mode inside of Postman because it has the context, a lot stronger API context than like just stock Claude 4 does. So I would start there, and it has integrations back for source files, especially for Open API specs, down into a repository. And so you could just, work with one specialty agent somewhere else or somewhere, and then, use another specialized tool somewhere else as part of the lifecycle. All right, Andres, we gotta wrap this one up because we're 30 minutes over.
I'll probably keep executing the tasks in the background as I do my work, my day work.
So we're at 19 spec requests used for, how far did we get through the task list? This is like a percentage wise. So we're working on 6 of 15. Well, okay. This is the part here. Let's put the code away. Let's come back for the last minute. In the grand scheme of things, let's say it works, right? Let's say it works. You and I didn't really do code. We didn't do code at all. We talked about product requirements for what we wanted it to do, which is a big deal. And it went and did it. Now, if you think about this as an enabler from a non-technical perspective, let's say a small business owner or somebody that just has an idea, the fact that you could go from idea to actual something with code that's may or may not be actual production ready, but hopefully is, for $20, well, that's a heck of a deal. That's like, if you think about, if you're outcome oriented, outcome driven, and you see an outcome like that, especially if you don't have, tens of years of experience in computer science, that's pretty magical.
We're entering in technology's changing so fast, but things are getting easier for non-technical. This is technical driven, but you can start with the requirements and then just have it roll through everything else, similar to a Vive flow, right? But if you don't care about the code and just, hey, I can look at the UI and I see it's working, I can be like more product oriented and just give it feedback based on what I see from the UI instead of what it's producing in the code, right? So that's definitely possible.
Yes.
And scary at the same time, but it's the times we live in and the tools we're given to be able to optimize and be more efficient. I think this is the thing. And even if it's not for like your day job, like I said, it's a personal project that I put on hold. I'll just spend 30 minutes building the requirements so I can execute it with my teammates. And just have it done, right? And then just test at the end of the day when I'm watching TV, right? Or I've been just watching TV and click continue on Kiro so it can continue.
Yeah,
working.
That's nice. Yes. Okay, so final. I know we like to do this. Kiro with all things considered, quality of output, the amount of usage that we saw, the intuitiveness of the interface. Thumbs up or thumbs down? 2 thumbs up. I didn't know where you were going to go with that. Yeah, thumbs up for me too. I'm very impressed. I
think we'll get better at understanding like the type of task I'm executing. If there could be something that can tell me, hey, based on what I know as Kiro, this is going to take 3 credits, right? If we get to that point, it's going to be much better for me to plan my usage throughout the month on the stuff I'm executing with Kiro. So it's definitely looking good. We're at 19. Oh, I changed my desktop. We're at 21 specs used, right? So you can do features, even spin up a full project with 100, right? So
yeah. So
but
do
will it land for the whole month? I don't know.
Not for $20. Not for right now, anyway. For Greenfield, that's also one of the things that we're like unfairly assessing right now. Everybody's coming in and doing all this Greenfield development. Specs will go a lot further when you're doing maintenance and adding features onto something that's not completely green. But do this, Andres. We do have to go now. When you're done running through all those tasks, would you mind sharing in the Believe in Serverless Discord how many requests that took to get to the end? So just like do the upcoming events and just follow on with us. If anybody's not in the Believe in Serverless Discord, you can join believeinserverless.com/community. We'll take you straight into the Discord. Thousands of developers in there who build cloud native things, not just serverless like the name might convince you of, but lots of great things over there.
Yeah, I'll share that, and if it worked, and if I continue making it work, how many requests of Vive and specs did I do? So I'll summarize all that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what that ends up at, and also, I would appreciate a screenshot if it works. If it does work, see what it ended up at.
Cool.
Okay, all right, Andres. It was really nice to have you drive today versus me.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Nice. Yeah. Good to see you, everybody. Thank you for all of your engagement. It's clearly a hot topic. This is the most comments we've ever gotten on any stream ever in the history of our show. So thank you. Great conversations, and we will see you next time.
See you, everybody.